Hello everybody, welcome back. I seem to be sitting at a bad angle here, can't seem to get a face on, never mind. Right, I was playing in the Killer Chess training tournament in Almeria, which actually was called the Peter Long Memorial, so rest in peace Peter Long, who was an Asian chess organiser, a friend of the organiser of this tournament, Jacob Agard. And oh, hang on, there's a sort of piece of recording equipment in the background. And yeah, I think I did chat to him briefly on Facebook a few times, but obviously older gentleman, passed away recently. Did a lot for Asian chess in terms of organisation, obviously possibly one of the people that put down the groundwork, the foundation for this Asian chess explosion, which has seen Ding become world champion, Gukesh become world champion, and obviously a lot of Indian and Chinese players coming through, and players from all over Asia. I think Peter Long was from Malaysia actually. Anyway, I played this Peter Long Memorial, and it was in a very nice location. I'll just show you, it's actually organised by the Killer Chess Training Camp tournament, and the trainers were Ruslan Ponomarev. He wasn't one of the main trainers, but he came in for a couple of days, did a simul as well apparently, because I was chatting to a guy called Tim who drew with him in the simul, and they had to, you know, stop the simul because it was going on too long. Jacob Agard, who's a former British champion, former Danish champion as well possibly, from Denmark, you know, very hard working guy, one of the hardest working people in chess. Also a very good player and a well-known coach as well of some of the elite players, so he's done a lot for chess and very good organizer as well. So he's kind of like the Alan Sugar of the chess world, you know. He's got his sort of hand in every business, but his main business is really quality chess, which I believe has now incorporated the Nguyen chess, because I think Nguyen chess possibly they weren't doing very well. And also they've sort of merged with Chessable. It's all a bit confusing to me because I'm not really one of these business people. But he also runs his Killer Chess training website, which he set up with his wife Kalia, and she had the idea of having these Killer Chess training camps. It's a very good idea to have them in beautiful locations. You see, this is the actual hotel, so it looks like a mirage, doesn't look like a real hotel, it looks too beautiful. Killer Chess Training Camp will take part in sunny Spain in Roquetas del Mar, which is a town in the Almeria area of Spain, which in itself is in the Andalusia region of Spain, and that's on the coast, or some of it's on the coast. In fact, when we flew into Almeria, we went over a mountain which is the second highest mountain in Spain. I think it starts with an M, Monichin or something like that. It's the second highest. It's the highest mountain in continental Spain. The highest mountain in Spain is a mountain on Tenerife, which is a extinct volcano. But the highest mountain in Spain, continental Spain, is this mountain. As you come into Almeria Airport, you see this mountain, which is very surprising because I don't remember ever seeing a mountain that close to the coast, and like quite a hot coast as well. So that's kind of surprising to me. And then you had a couple of GMs here, Julian as Arizmendi and Renier Castellanos. So that's going to be the source of this video. We'll talk about Renier, because Renier was one of the organisers of the event as well, and he was told by Jacob that in order to run a lot of these camps, it would look better if he had a GM title. So he was one of these people, I think, that was maybe a little bit, not lazy, but wasn't motivated to play that much and get the GM title, but basically got that kick up the arse, and it really helped him. And now he's playing like an amazing level, as we'll see in this next game. And he won the tournament, which didn't actually surprise me. I thought he was one of the favourites going in. I thought Gormally and him were probably the two favourites. As Arizmendi as well, but he doesn't play that much anymore. It's gone down a little bit, but still a very strong player. Had a bit of an American accent, so may have spent some time in America. Anyone going to look at this game and been waffling too long? This is what I do. You know, this is what you come to this channel for. You love the waffle, right? So we got this opening. This actually reminded me of some of these games that Leela would play. You know, where it's sort of like just, you know, shuffle around at the start. Wouldn't give you anything to bite on. So quite clever play, I think. Oh yeah, he mentioned this move, maybe bishop f5 was possible after the game. I didn't really, I sort of very briefly considered that, only very briefly. And I thought the d3 would have been a good reply. But then he mentioned knight a6. Kind of clever, right? Yeah, knight a6 was decent. And you're putting a little bit of indirect pressure on d3, either aiming to play knight b4 or sometimes go knight c5, maybe take on c4. A little bit of pressure on d3. A very interesting suggestion by my opponent. By the way, this guy's training a lot. Because he's doing these training camps, he's really elevating his level because he's seen other options. You know, he's used to training. That's how you get good, right? This is what I've been lacking in my chess. Training with other people. You know, I'm quite a talented player, but I haven't had that level of training. I think this is what I need to do to get to that, maybe to that 2500 level again, if it's even possible now. It's obviously a huge ask. But bishop g4, I've kind of played these setups. He's probably aware that I've been playing these inferior setups for some time now. Slightly inferior. Not too bad, but slightly inferior. I actually think I might have played rook e8 in a similar position against Marcus Harvey. And the idea is to go for e5 and just grab the center. And sometimes maybe the knight would go to a6 rather than d7. But that was also possible. But I went here and rook e8. I was quite happy at this point because I thought, well, I'm going to go e5 and that's going to, well, it's going to open up the position for the two bishops. But it's also going to give me quite a lot of activity as well. I thought he might take on d5. I wasn't sure about that. There's really something that white wants to do because it solidifies the black center, takes some of the pressure off. So he decided to play knight d2, which I think was a good move. So all kind of fairly normal. So this was a critical moment, and I thought, yeah, castle's good. He'd not really given me anything to bite on. And I thought for a little bit here, I thought for a while, I wasn't sure what to play. So my initial gut instinct was just to take the pawn. And I mentioned to him after the game that I thought this was slightly better for white, but nothing too scary. But yeah, it would have been a different type of game, and probably I should have done this. I think knight e5 I was thinking actually after the game, or even during the game. And if you take on d5 and probably tab out a knight to avoid the isolated pawn. You can also tab out a pawn, it's not the end of the world. If you tab out a pawn, you know, you're slightly worse though. It would have been a different type of game. But I decided to go e4. But the problem is it's very strategically committal because white has the bishop pair, now has a very dangerous long-term plan of advancing on the queen side. So my idea was this, I wanted to win this game. I was half a point behind. But also I had a good feeling about this tournament. You know, I really thought I was going to win this tournament going in. I just had a really good feeling about this tournament, which is rare for me. I normally have a bad feeling, but I thought I was going to win this tournament. And I thought, right, to win this tournament I need to win this game. The fate is on my side. And I decided, right, I'm going to go like a sharper type of position where I'm going to advance on the king side. He's going to push on the queen side. It's more double-edged. If I take on d4, I'm slightly worse. I might make a draw. I'm going to suffer. I'm probably not going to win. But if I go here, it's very double-edged and I might get chances. So, yeah, knight f8 was played in order to bring the knight to e6, which I thought was a better square, was freeing up the queen. Doesn't really do much on d7. Also, the queen is now given extra protection d5. So this is a very sharp position you could probably analyse for hours. I thought another plan that he might employ is go knight b3 to c5. Wasn't sure about that as well. But maybe when he goes knight c5 you can just chop it off. Chop it off with its head. So he went a4 and I went knight e7. Now the idea behind knight e7 was to play the move f5. And I thought f5 was quite a good move. And that would create some kind of counter-attacking chance on the king side. I must admit though, I was very concerned about his impending queenside assault. you know, because at the moment I'm not really putting any tactical pressure on the king side. It looks like f5, f4, the knight will just drop back to f1, so what? You know, that's kind of what happened in the game actually eventually, that I really got no chances. But I was concerned about his attack on the queen side. So he went a5. Actually, I think the engine says that was slightly inferior. He had a slightly better option here. I can't remember exactly what it was. You can tell I've done a huge amount of analysis on this game, you know. And by the way, I think that's the key for me to get better, is to do my own analysis. I've become too reliant on the engine. I can't use my brain anymore. You know, I just, what does Stockfish say? What does, you know, Fritz 19 say? Who cares about what I say? You know, it's boring that way. That's how you get good. That's what I say. You've got to train your brain. So yeah, a5 slightly inferior on the engine, but not a bad move from a human perspective. So he took, and they went queen b3. Yeah, I was actually expecting. I was worried about knight b3 here. I can't remember why, but I think just knight b3, knight c5. I was worried about with the clamp. And again, you can analyze. This is a fascinating position. I'm going to spend like hours and days and years analysing this position, because it's a fascinating position. If you believe that, you believe anything. But yeah, knight b3, knight c5 was an interesting option. Also, maybe b5 immediately, but then I think my idea was maybe to take. Yeah, I'm not sure actually. b5 I considered taking, but then he does hit this rook, so I don't have time to take it. But maybe I can get away with rook e7, because bishop a3 could just be better with rook c7. So not very sure about any of this, but he played queen b3 because he wants to go b5. He's methodically building up the attack. So I think, well, you know, to get anywhere on the king's side, you've got to go f5, f4. So I went f5, I went f4. Key moment of the game coming up. He took. And he went rook c6. So this is a key moment, and this is what's been happening with my chess. I think I've explained this in other videos. When I'm put under a little bit of pressure, generally I'm fine when I'm doing well. But when I'm start to be put under pressure, like I'm under pressure here, you know, he's attacking a6. If a6 falls, you need to come up with something here. If a6 falls, he queens the a pawn. You know, if he gets a few moves in a row, it's over. So I'm under pressure here, and when I'm under pressure, I tend to respond badly because my ego, my emotion takes over. And I don't allow myself time to think about a position methodically. And this happened to me later in the tournament actually as well, in a different way, that I was playing this junior who was underrated. And it was a moment where maybe I could have squeezed out a win, but you'd had to be very patient, and I just started rushing through because my ego took over. And you know, I wasn't calm in that moment. I was just thinking, right, practically I've got to play a quick move here because I'm under pressure. You know, I've got to, you know, you stop trying to methodically appraise a position. Your emotions take over. So your anxiety, your intrusive thoughts take over. And your intuitive thoughts. So when you're playing earlier in the game, intuitively you're thinking, you know, a lot of stuff is you're thinking calmly, you're thinking intuitively, you're calculating the variations. When you're put under pressure, the tendency is to knee-jerk. So my thought process here was, I've got to attack on the king side. So actually my question to you watching at home, what move should I have played in this position? Actually, the main idea for black, I must admit, I did not consider this during the game. And this is where I think you need to spend more time. You need to be able to, it's so important at a higher level that you understand when the key moment arises and when you really need to think. And I didn't understand and appreciate that in this situation. And I also think you really need to be able to have the ability to calculate very well and calculate really complex variations. Anyway, a lot of waffle. So what I should have done, if you pause the video, think about your counter moves. What is the counter move here for black? What should black play? So the move I played in the game was quite a big mistake. I'm going to explain why it was a big mistake. So I went knight f8. So why is that a big mistake? Well, the reason I went knight f8 was I thought he was putting pressure on e6. I thought one of his threats is maybe just to take this pawn with a knight. Knight takes e4. And when I take back, rook takes e6. And I'm just falling apart. You know, I'm losing light squares, losing pawns. I'm falling apart. So I thought that's one of his threats. So after rook c6. So I thought, well, I'm going to cover that threat, and I also need to have queen g5 at my disposal, because queen g5 is a move of counterplay. However, the move I didn't consider, which I should have played, which is a much better move, is knight g5. Now, why is knight g5 a good move? This is where it becomes very difficult to explain. It's a very, very difficult idea because, you know, on the face of it, it looks like a bad move. It looks like a move that doesn't really threaten anything. However, black does start to gain tactical chances when you look in a position deeper. This is what I was saying about if you appraise stuff superficially, you're not going to get this move. You're not going to find this move. Like a blitz player might find this move because you're moving a knight closer to the king. In fact, Kramnik in his course, in his chessable course, mentions this, and I kind of regretted it after the game that I didn't follow this Kramnik advice. He said one of his strategic advice is move your pieces close to your opponent's king. So this makes a lot more sense. Knight f8 has got zero attacking potential, the knight on f8, but the knight on g5, I've basically got to go all in here. I've got to commit. I've got to go for the counter attack on the white king side. So one it's a very difficult position to understand. Like, for example, I don't quite understand why he can't just take this pawn. I need to analyse this position in great depth to understand why this is okay for black. I think it's probably a similar solution to what happens in the other line. But one obvious reply is to move h4. Now, if the knight goes back to f7, he has to move knight takes e4 again, and I'm falling apart probably. This is probably, I don't know if this move works actually. I don't think it does, because something like this is just total collapse. And there's also rook e4, bishop f3 is looking very bad. It's a very strategically risky position for white. But there's this amazing move here, which I failed to appreciate, which is you simply give up the knight immediately. This is why it's very difficult, you know, a very difficult idea to find. So I didn't really regret. Normally you beat yourself up about these positions and these missed chances, but I think this is a very tough one to find. And the point is that after he takes, you simply take back, and you can even give that pawn, but you're creating so much counterplay with ideas of taking. When he takes back, the queen comes in. The computer says the position is equal. And in fact, it strikes me as a position that white could even lose, because there's a lot going on here. You know, you could even like technically lose this position. So, but I think where I beat myself up really was my negative mindset. I was sat there, I remember feeling depressed. My opponent, very strong player, putting me under pressure. I was feeling depressed. You know, when you see someone like Nakamura streaming online, he's looking like really sort of like, you know, hyper. He's looking for chances. He's just like really fascinated by the position. I'm sitting there, I'm like negative, I'm depressed, pessimistic. I better bring the knight back to defend the knight, hope for something else later on. So we'll just show you why this was, you know. So I've got a negative mindset. I'm not looking for attacking chances. I'm looking to defend. I went knight f8. He took. And it actually falls apart fairly quickly here. And he played really well after this mistake. He simply went a6, which obviously I feared. So I was trying to create some counterplay here. I didn't really believe in moves like bishop h6. I think I did play bishop h6 maybe, yeah. The problem with f3, well, for a start, bishop f1 is good anyway, but I think you can even just take. This is what I realised that you know, maybe I'd missed earlier as well, that this is just terrible for black, because if he takes on d5, it's just a game over. If I go there, I'm going to allow a move like queen b7. Very simple idea to find for white, so I would probably lose the game very quickly if I'd done that. So I went bishop h6, rook a5 star move actually. I think I'd seen that, but I was hoping he wouldn't find it. He did. Rook a5, great move. So he's now threatening this because of this. I thought I had some idea against this move, but I didn't. I took. Yeah, so I went queen f4. So I realised the game was up at this point. This position is just dead lost. So I went queen f4 because I had some vague ideas going to f2, but then I didn't like h2. Sorry, but I didn't like. Eventually, I didn't like queen h2 because I thought he would just take. So I never went into that square anyway. He went queen d5. Rook c8 was out of pure desperation. So yeah, actually I thought here we had a simple win here with rook a1. I think the computer confirms it, but it looks a bit scary to allow something like this, even though you're probably going to queen. But I thought you could. I saw this variation, or maybe some other move, and I didn't see a good follow up for black. I thought he's just going to queen the pawn. If rook b2, he can queen the pawn. Because the problem is I can never move the knight in anyway because it was pinned by the queen. So white is in total control here, but probably lots of ways to win. He went rook c5, which is also an interesting way to win, just to get out of the exchange. There was also ideas like, the problem was I wanted to go rook here with the same sort of ideas, but the problem is he goes g3. He throws this in. So probably some move like a7 is somehow winning, but but that actually is what black is hoping for. If you do this, then rook b1 is starting to become a huge threat. In fact, you know, if you queen the pawn, white gets 2 queens, but this is winning for black. So that's really my only hope. But the problem is that he has g3. He always has his intermezzo. He always has these options like queens e3, rook c3. And I've got only one square, which is d4, but then he exchanges queens and he's going to win the endgame. Oh, hang on, have I miscalculated that? Yeah, I think that move will do, because I think this is actually winning for white. Probably I've miscalculated this. Yeah, I mean probably even a7 here is winning, but and then just put the rook on the 7th or something. There's probably a few ways to win this position, but I'll probably not play that too well for white. But anyway, it felt lost. I mean, there was other ways to win after rook b8 as well for white. But yeah, I just started getting desperate. I didn't want to exchange queens here, but I felt like I had no choice. And yeah, I mean, I kind of regret not going knight d7, but it was dead lost. And as you hear, I was surprised he just didn't take and go here, because I genuinely didn't see a defense, because I can't bring the knight into the game and I can't move the king. So I thought that was it's a very simple way to win, but what he did was also quite practical. He just decided to keep the bishop there and just chomp the pawn, and essentially the game is up by this point. Even though nominally I'm not really material down, you know, he's got 2 pawns for the exchange, but these 2 pawns are just way too powerful in the endgame. So a very simple win for white, and he cleaned up. Probably I could have defended it slightly better, but I think it was lost anyway. So anyway, so that was that game. Very impressive game. And I think in the next video I'm going to show some other games from the tournament and talk a little bit more in detail about how the tournament went and so on.